Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I get my insulated clothes. This is what I wear when I go to do my deliveries when it's 6 degrees out there. They are insulated, USB-driven, heated undergarments. I highly recommend them. That's awesome. Welcome to another GripMotion live stream. I'm just wearing a gross, disgusting white t-shirt. Ignore that. This t-shirt's about 10 years old. Maybe older, honestly, realistically. But it still serves the purpose. And if the garment's treating you well, you treat the garment well. Cheers to you. Please take a minute. Whenever it is, whatever minute it is, whatever day it is, it's Valentine's Day today. Happy Valentine's Day to you. And get yourself some hot chocolate. It's February. It's cold. It's probably not cold now when you're watching it, but if you're in the Midwest, there's a 50% chance it's pretty fucking cold. So get yourself a nice warm cup of something. Warm tea, warm coffee. Let me tell you a little trick about hot chocolate. I want you to use Swiss Miss hot chocolate. Standard cup size, probably 4 scoops of Swiss Miss chocolate. Standard spoonfuls. Okay? 4 into whole milk. Whole milk. 4 scoops of Swiss Miss chocolate. And then give yourself a nice, generous slice of butter. I know that sounds weird, but whole buttermilk with Swiss Miss chocolate that's piping hot. Oh, warm chocolate buttermilk. Oh, 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 oh. It's enough to get you all amped up and all mellowed out all at the same time. It's a weird place to be. Oh. Wow. Just a mouthful of delight. That's how I would describe it. It's so rich and creamy. And it has just the right amount of cocoa where it's not overpowering. It's not bitter. They just double down on the creaminess in the Swiss Miss. So good. And then the butter takes that creaminess and then just kind of smooths it over. Like it needed any help. Swiss Miss is amazing. But just that little bit of butter, it takes your hot cocoa to the next level. Way back in the day, when I first moved up to Michigan in 2011, end of 2011, 2012, sometime in the year 2012, 2013, I purchased from Europe, from Greenhouse Seeds, one of the most highly coveted strains in the world. One of the most award-winning strains in the world. The only strain that had won more cannabis cups than Greenhouse cheese was... who's Blueberry? That's like BC Seeds Blueberry. Somebody's Blueberry is a 4-time cannabis cup winner. And then cheese is a 3 times winner. And I think there might be 1 or 2 other 3-time Cannabis Cup winners out there. But it goes like BC Blueberry and then cheese. Now, I did get the blueberry, and it was garbage. I mean, hot garbage. It tasted like barbecue sauce. disgusting. One of the most grossest plants I've ever tasted. Not only that, but it was incredibly sensitive to hermaphrodization. So any level of stress would cause it to pop pollen sacs and it would become a problem. But cheese, of all the plants that I had, you would think that cheese would taste like or smell like a mozzarella cheese, right? That fresh, creamy, zesty, kind of funky, a little bit earthy, but really creamy. Not what, maybe that's how it was for some people, but the one that I got, and I had a 10 pack, so, and they were all fairly close, honestly. It wasn't like, hey, one was this and the other one was way off. They were all really consistent on this really sweet, fruity pebbles and green grapes. Green grapes and fruity pebbles. Go ahead, pop a green grape in your mouth, drop some fruity pebbles in your mouth, chew that all up, and that was the flavor that you got from cheese. So I used to enjoy, in my early years in Michigan, a cup of hot chocolate and a nice toke of greenhouse seeds, 3 times cannabis cup winning cheese. Oh, they paired so well together. I know you would think the green grapes and fruity pebbles might not go well with hot chocolate. That sounds like such a bad mix. It's like sweet tart with like sweet creamy, but the two just went together so well. So after you take that first hit, press your tongue to the top of your mouth and breathe out your nose. I was going to take a drink right away. But you really want to take a moment to appreciate the flavor. Push your tongue to your top of your mouth, exhale out your nose, and really focus on the signals that your tongue is giving your brain. It really is a purple sucker. It's amazing. That's that TGA Subcool Urkel crossed by Killer Queen 2, which made Killer Grape number 2, which I got in 2018. I got that. Killer Grape 2018, 17. No, I had gotten it from a bulk warehouse company, essentially. I got it from a bulk warehousing company. And by the time I had gotten it from the bulk warehousing company, TGA Subcool had gone out of business. Not that they had gone out of business, but they'd shut their business down and dissolved it over a ownership dispute between the 2 or 3 parties that were managing the company. And it dissolved and split up into different areas. Killer Grape 2 was never to see the light of day again. They sold Killer Grape 2 in seed packs of one seed in the pack is all I got. It's my first plant that tested over 30%. And it's stacked. Gosh, did it stack. And it was so vigorous. Like, it was vigorous like Northern Lights. It was vigorous like a weed, man. It grew and grew. Great node spacing, great stalk strength. Gosh, dude, it's stacked in flowering and then filled out and made really nice, long, dense colas, just like you would like to see, like the old Thai sticks. Yep, good times, good times. Great oldies, 96 won the mix. Ah, yes, happy Valentine's Day as the cup cools down and the great Mother Mary goes away. Time to get to work on this. What is it, a Friday? I don't even know what day it is. Friday, February 14th. Share my screen. We're not going to go through what we went through yesterday. All right, we're in Blender, but first we're going to jump into here. I want to make sure that I've got this dragon all put together before we send it out. The prelims on the dragon went well. Regarding the fit. So much so that I'm ready to go to full print on the dragon. But first, I want to I just want to try making one of these horns come out of the neck. Big neck spike. And that's going to be the grip. And it should be able to come down and be quite thick. So I'm kind of looking forward to this. But doggone it, that would change the print time quite a lot. If I were to elevate it, that would take it from being done in 8 hours to 12 to 16. It would nearly double the print time. We have to do something. We have to do something. Let's throw it in there, and we're going to take a look at it. We're going to see just how the tactical trick is going to work. Oh, dude, I can see how we could make a whole wrap, you know? Like, this is the first part. We've got a second part that clips on here. That's the body. Where the brass is ejecting out of the shoulder. Did we just come up with that just now on camera? Totally just came up with that. We'll have to work on it. It can't be to scale. I'm telling you, it can't be. It cannot be to scale. To scale wings, to fit that mouth size and that head size would be like the size of a pillow, right? You'd be like carrying 2 full-size pillows on the side of your device. And it's just like, well, I'm tempted to load the full model and scale it to the head to show you guys what this to scale body and head would need to be. I'm so curious. We might just do that. Dude, it looks so bad. All right, let's get into Blender. Let's get this dragon head going. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. But so awesome. To do the body with the legs, it's just huge. It would just be massive. You could have the tail be the butt stock. I mean, it would be sick. It would be the sickest thing ever. It would only be like $500 to purchase it all, though. It would only take about a kilo, a little more of resin. We can print it pretty much hollow. I checked on this, and it had like 12 millimeter spacing in between the support structure, and it is rock solid. Can't bend it, except for like these little points in the back that are half points. But like I was able to bend this one right there, but I couldn't bend any of these in like this. I couldn't bend these left, right. I couldn't bend the fins. So we could get away with making them pretty hollow, which will make it significantly lighter. I think the wings as well. All right, we are exporting to STL. Oh, darn it. I needed to isolate it, I think. Yeah. Now, before we do this, I am tempted to just cut the horn off and stick it down there. Oh, we've got that going on down there. Oh, yes. We will figure that out. It's a 10 mil circle. All right, this will be a good test first in Blender today. I've been kind of studying up on Blender a little bit. I still don't like Blender's movements. I've been trying to work out that. Well, why don't I show you once we get in there? My issues with Blender. I'm going to save this as Dragon Test 2 V2. All right, let's jump over to Blender. We're going to file import STL. We're going to scroll down to our Dragon V2 test. It's a Diddy. There we go. Dragon Head Test V2 STL. I don't like Blender's movements at all. Not one bit. Look at it doesn't move. And it'll just all of a sudden stop moving. I don't have these issues. We'll run this. It's probably my garbage mouse. All right, let's take a look at this in edit mode. What would happen if I would go to... Oh, the jeepers. Why do I see all that over there? Yeah, as nice as Blender is, it's not as straightforward as you might think. Like, what you see as a flat face is not necessarily a flat face. Can I re-subdivide this? Trying to move, trying to move. Garbage. Go to sculpt. We're going to... How do I add a blob? Edit. No. Object. Oh, I add an object. Sculpt. I think that'll just... All right, now can we... Wow, why does it pull the other side? That just bothers me so much. You're you just want to move that one, right? But I suppose it's because of the setting. It's because it's got a pull and elasticizer setting on it, where it moves, it affects the surrounding mesh by X, within X radius by X volume. Garbage. Garbage. Okay. Okay. So you should be able to roll in on it at least. Pretty lame. I literally might be just taking that horn off in shaper. Let's see how fast we can make up a body and hack that horn off. Baby kittens. Oh my god. I just want to see where the cut is going to be exactly, right? So by oversizing this box, I can see where the slice is going to affect it. And so now I'm going to rotate it around to kind of get the most that I can out of the horn. It's definitely going to do something to it. Now we're just going to copy that. I don't want to move it. don't necessarily look uniform. It's not that big. It's gonna be bigger. Whoa, is this? What the fuck? Come on here. Yeah, I see where we're going. I don't like it though. Good effort though, good effort. Oh, the baby is so sweet. You're so amazing. Wonder if that's gonna undo everything. Yes. Oh, he's so happy. Oh, you're so happy. Oh, you're just a baby. That might have been more than this computer wanted to do right now. That's too bad. So it's got to be object mode. Layout monolith.
How to add objects in Blender. In 3D viewport, press Shift plus A, then select the object to add from the list. In the
If you want to mirror a part of your object in Blender, here's how you do it. Select the object for the model. Go here to Modifiers, Generate, and make it velocity. Show it the discrete view. If you want to mirror a part of your object in Blender,
As an owner of multiple goggles and goggle glasses, I know how to make slick-looking goggles/glasses.
if you've ever wanted to learn how to do things like 3D modeling in a 3D software like Blender, for example, this tutorial is aimed at absolute beginners, by which I mean can see we have a camera. So if you just left click, you can select camera, or if you left click on your cube here, you can select that, or if you left click on this object here, that's your lamp or your light, and that's what's going to eventually. We're not going to be talking about that today, but that's what it will. That's face. So that's how you do multiple face selections. The exact same thing goes with edges. If I select one edge and then I'm holding shift, I can select another one. Holding shift, I can select the third one, and so on. And the exact same thing applies to the vertices. If I want to select one vertex, I can go over to the next one by holding shift, and so on and so forth. So you can see that's how it works. So that's just different ways of selecting essentially the same mesh, but just in a different way. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit one nil to go to our front orthographic view. And once again, if you go to view, you go to viewport and do that over here from front. And if you want to be able to model this, one thing that I'm going to teach you about are modifiers. So modifiers are these things down here. If you go to click on the modifier properties, you can see something here called add modifier. So if we click on add modifier, you're going to see a whole bunch of things which we won't be focusing on today, but they essentially give our mesh or geometry certain kind of properties that they apply to them. It can sometimes make things easier for us. For example, if we go over down here under the generate, we can go over to what's called a mirror modifier. And the mirror modifier is essentially just going to take this geometry and take one side of it and mirror it exactly the same on the opposite side. So let's quickly go ahead and add in a mirror modifier. And now we need to select our geometry and just move it to the side. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to hit A to select all of the geometry. Then in the front of the graphic view, go G, X, and move it over to the side. You can see that's our X axis. The X axis you can also see up here. This little gizmo shows us the X goes this way. Right? The Z goes up and down like this, and then the Y goes like that. But that's from our right of graphic view, which we're not working in currently. So just hit 1 to go back to the front of the graphic view, and I have to keep mirrored on the X. You can also change these, by the way. So you can change this if you want to work with different axes, but we won't be doing that. Just focus on the X for now. But what we also want to do is we want to come over here and enable clipping. When we enable clipping and we take this cube and we go G, X, remember it's all selected because we hit A to select everything. So we're going to go G, X, I'm going to move it in, and you can see they're clipping together now they're in the middle. So I'm going to bring it in just about this much. You can see they're clipping together. See? There, and if what's called a mirror modifier. And the mirror modifier is essentially just going to take this geometry and take one side of it and mirror it exactly the same on the opposite side. So let's quickly go ahead and add in a mirror modifier. And now we need to select our geometry and just move it to the side. So we can hit A to select all of the geometry. Then in the front of the graphic view, we can go G, X, and move it over to the side. You can see it's actually mirrored.
A, G, X.
Shift, I can select the third one, and so on. And the exact same thing applies to the vertices. If I want to select one vertex, and mirrored on this side here, and to go back to the front of the graphic view, if I let go of Shift and then I click on another face, all of a sudden it just selects that. Multiple facing selections. The exact Shift, I can select another one. Hold and Shift, I can select the exact same thing applies to the vertices. If I want to select one vertex, I can go over to the next one by holding Shift, and so on and so forth. So you can see that's how it works. So that's just different ways of selecting essentially the same mesh, but just in a different way. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit 1 now to go to the front of the graphic view. And once again, if you go to View, you go to Viewport and do that over here by going front. And if we want to be able to model this, one thing that I'm going to teach you about are modifiers. So modifiers are these things down here. If you go and click on the modifier properties, you can see something here called Add Modifier. So if we click on Add Modifier, you can see a whole bunch of things which we won't be focusing on today, but they essentially give our mesh or geometry certain kind of properties that they apply to that can sometimes make things easier for us. For example, if we go over down here under the generate, we can go over to what's called a mirror modifier. And the mirror modifier is essentially just going to take this geometry and take one side of it and mirror it exactly the same on the opposite side. So let's quickly go ahead and add in a mirror modifier. And now we need to select our geometry and just move it to the side. So what we're going to actually do is we can hit A to select all of the geometry. Then in the front of the graphic view, we can go G, X, and move it over to the side. You can see. And move it over to the side. You can see it's actually mirrored here. If you go and you click on the modifier properties, you can see something here called Add Modifier. So if we click on Add Modifier, you can see a whole bunch of things which we won't be focusing on today, but they essentially give our mesh or geometry certain kind of properties that they apply to that can sometimes make things easier easier for us. For example, if we go over down here under the generate, we can go over to what's called a mirror modifier. And a mirror modifier is essentially just going to take this geometry and take one side of it and mirror it exactly the same on the opposite side. So let's quickly go ahead and add in a mirror modifier. And now we need to select that geometry and just move it to the side. So what we're going to actually do is we can hit A to select all of the geometry. Then in the front of graphic view, we can go G.
So did he add the mirror modifier to the whole unit? So I've got the entirety of the cube selected. We're going to go to edit mode. I've already got my mirror on there. What the heck, man? Oh, whoa. What are you doing way over there? Huh? You retarded? It says that the location is at 0. It really bothers me. Where is the where? It's because the dragon head was built off center to begin with. How come I can't? How come I can't move that? I don't want to move the item. I want to move the center point back to the center of the item. And what there is going to help me do that? Blender, you're suck. Shaper was way better. But it doesn't even delete it. Okay. Let's start from scratch here. Yeah, so where is the circle? That is the question. It's literally just a circle. Okay. That signifies 1 inch. Is that for real? Okay, so let's sculpt. Where's the bottom? What do you mean? What do you mean I can't subdivide the bottom? What? What even is that? Blender, you suck. Yeah, whatever. I mean, there's just nothing there to grab. What if it had to do with that movement where it brought it all the way back? No, there's nothing you can do. It doesn't even exist. What the heck, man? You can't. There's nothing to even extrude. So maybe we don't go with the cube. cubes. Why, Blender? Why? Delete the cube. Cube is no good. Cube is no good. Good. Now, circle's good. Now, let's go to edit. Can I extrude? Okay, so circle is just nothing. So if cube is a cube, you would think a circle. You would think a circle would bring you a circle. Like you know, like an object. But it doesn't bring you an object. That'll make you scratch your head. I want a mesh. I don't want a plane. A UV sphere. Okay, that's really what I want. I really want a sphere, not a circle. Let's just be clear about that. Holy bejeebers. All right. Because you can import a plane. Now, here we go. I think, where do we add our modifier? I believe we're going to add modifier. All right, I think that'll work. I don't know, but we are gonna try it. I am just gonna go with getting into sculpt mode, and we're gonna just start peeling it out. Oh, it sucks. Why is this off center? Am I fucking crazy? What? Why is it going off to the side like that? I thought this thing was supposed to be symmetrical. What is that? That's not symmetrical. That's not even close. Boy, I'm confused. Boy, I'm so confused right now. You know, I thought that was gonna work. Somebody explain that to me. You set it up to mirror off from a particular axis. But I ended up with way more material on the other side of the axis. How can you set up a mirror off from a particular axis and have where off from what x-axis? What do you mean? Off from its own x-axis because it's on a specific amount of rotation. I bet if we were to pull this back and we were to look at where its navigation is in object mode, we're going to find it's on rotation of 1 degree. That's so disappointing. So it was going off from its own x-axis? Because here is the x-axis. That is x-axis, but it's going off from its own x-axis, which is, yeah, it's still the same. All right, kids. Sure. Okay, now it could be anywhere. Okay, but we're going to go with rotation 0, 0, 0. And we're going to start from scratch again. We are going to start by taking our object into edit mode. We're going to subdivide immediately. Just divide it by 10 right away because we are going to stretch this thing out. Then we're just going to start we're going to jump into sculpt, and I'm just going to start packing blobs onto it. But before we do that, why can't I mirror the sphere? Boy, that bothers me. Okay. Okay. Let's just keep swinging. We're trying to add a mesh sphere to right here, more or less. We are trying to add modifier. Okay, so now we've got our mirror sphere going on. Let's got it subdivided by 10. We are going to run into sculpt. I don't like how it's off center. Like a lot of things, I don't like the additional sphere it put. I can move the dragon over to get it into shape. That's fine. I'm not super upset about that. Hey, yo, where are you going? God, Blender, you suck. Oh, we got a good tongue going on, that's for sure. Ooh, she's starting to get pretty pixeled out there. Now, are we at least straight on the x-axis? It appears to be. So, before we blend it together, we're going to want to continue to finalize the exterior shape here. How do I increase the strength of my smoothing? Because my smoothing is not doing it, not even touching it right now. Is that like a whole different thing? Like I have no effect on that. That's so strange. Is that supposed to be the backs? I mean, where I have no effect on that object. It's the back side of the other one. That's why. What a disaster. It somehow it got turned inside out. Like, what? Not intuitive, Blender. Not intuitive. Okay, random sphere. I don't think I have enough leaf for this. I don't think I have enough of the Hobbiton leaf. We're gonna get this though. Do not get me wrong. All right, people. I can't believe the Democrats want to fire Elon Musk. That's insane. All righty. Just a little break there. I don't even want to do this. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Here we go. Wham bam tailgate jam. Time to sit down, time to get the blanket all wrapped up here. Couch cushion's coming out. All right. We're going to put on some Sherlock Holmes. We're going to get this thing done. We're going to spend 2 hours on it, and we're just going to get it done. Do you hear me? We're just going to do it. Tactical Dragon, angled grip. 14 degrees out there. Happy Valentine's Day.
Here, unofficially, Inspector Lestrade has to.
We're going to start from the beginning.
Dr. Watson, to return to your specialty, the adventures of Mr. Sherlock Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Yes, I must say it's an enthusiasm I seem to share with a great many friends and critics. As you probably know, there is a collection of erudite gentlemen all over the United States of America who are ardent Sherlock Holmes admirers and who call themselves the Baker Street Irregulars. Why, would you believe it? They even argue with me about the accuracy of some of my stories.
Do they ever win the arguments, Dr. Watson?
You know, Holmes always said I had a weakness for embroidering a tale. But that's neither here nor there. So here's tonight's adventure, the Sixth Napoleon.
6 Napoleons? Why, good grief, Doctor. I should think one gentleman of that caliber was all the world could stand at a time. Or is it the name of an acrobatic troupe?
No, Mr. Harris, it's something even more unusual. As you may have gathered, Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard was a frequent visitor of ours in the old Baker Street days. Between him and Sherlock Holmes there was a friendly rivalry. His calls were welcome because they enabled us to keep in touch with things at Scotland Yard. In return for this news, Holmes was sometimes able, with or without any active interference, to give some valuable hint on the solution of a crime.
The word isn't sometimes, Dr. Watson. It's frequently.
Possibly. On the particular evening I'm referring to, Lestrade had come in wearing a preoccupied look. He spoke casually of the weather and the newspapers. Then he fell silent, puffing thoughtfully on one of his atrocious cigars. Holmes looked at him keenly.
Oh, Lestrade.
Nothing remarkable on hand, I suppose, Lestrade?
No, nothing in particular.
Then tell me about it.
Holmes, there's no use denying there is something on my mind.
Fancy that.
Quiet, Watson. Well, Lestrade, out with it. Has the Bank of England been threatened, or has someone stolen the doormat at Scotland Yard?
Well, as a matter of fact, the business is so absurd that I hesitate to bother you about it. On the other hand, though trivial, it is undoubtedly queer, and I know you have a taste for anything that's out of the common. In my humble opinion, it comes more in Dr. Watson's line than in ours.
Oh, you mean disease?
Well, madness, anyway, and a queer sort of madness, too. You'd hardly think anyone living in this day and age would have such a hatred of Napoleon that he felt compelled to break any image of him that he saw.
Is that all? That sort of nonsense is no business of mine.
Exactly, that's just what I said, but when the man commits burglary in order to satisfy his craving for breaking images, that takes it out of the doctor's province and into ours.
Burglary, eh? That's more interesting. Give us the details, that's a good chap.
Well, so far there have been 4 cases. Numbers 1 and 2 were reported 4 days ago. It was at the shop of Morse Hudson, who sells pictures and statues in the Kennington Road. The assistant had left the shop for a few moments when he heard a loud crash, hurried back and found 2 plaster busts of Napoleon lying shivered into fragments. He rushed out into the road but couldn't find the culprit, although several passers-by declared they had noticed a man run out of the shop.
How much were the busts worth?
Only a few shillings.
Well, I thought you said there was a robbery. That's just one of those senseless acts of hooliganism which are becoming more and more prevalent.
The 3rd and 4th cases were more serious.
Yes?
Yes. They occurred only last night. In Kennington Road, and within a few hundred yards of Morse Hudson's shop, lives Dr. Barnacle, a well-known medical practitioner.
By Jove, yes, I've heard of him. He has one of the largest practices on the south side of the Thames.
Don't interrupt, Watson.
Well, his residence and principal consulting rooms are in Kennington Road, but he has a branch surgery at Lower Buxton Road, 2 miles away. Dr. Barnacle's an enthusiastic admirer of Napoleon and had recently purchased from Morse Hudson 2 duplicate plaster casts of the famous head of Napoleon by the French sculptor Levine. One of these he placed in his home and one in the surgery in Buxton Road. Well, when Dr. Barnacle came down to breakfast this morning, he was astonished to find that the house had been broken into during the night, and still more astonished to discover that the only thing taken was the plaster head of Napoleon. It had been carried out and shattered against the garden wall.
This is beginning to be interesting. And the fourth case?
At 12 o'clock, Dr. Barnacle arrived at his
What the heck
surgery.
is on my
He
wall?
found the window broken and fragments of the fourth bust strewn all over the room. And there's no clue as to the criminal's identity. Those are the facts, Mr. Holmes.
Singular, not to say grotesque. Were the two busts smashed in Dr. Barnicot's rooms exact duplicates of the ones destroyed in Morse Hudson's shop?
They were taken from the same mold.
That's a coincidence, Holmes?
Yes, and it tells against the theory that the man who breaks these busts is influenced by a general hatred of Napoleon.
How do you make that out, Mr. Holmes?
Considering how many hundreds of statues of the great emperor must exist in London,
Mhm.
it's too much to suppose that a promiscuous iconoclast would chance to begin with 4 specimens from the same mold.
I thought that way myself at first, but on the other hand, this Morse Hudson's the only purveyor of busts in that part of London, and these 4 were the only ones of Napoleon that have been in his shop for years. Therefore, it seems logical that a local fanatic would begin with them. What do you think, Dr. Watson?
Well, there are no limits to the possibilities of monomania, Lestrade. For example, there is the condition which the French psychologists call the idée fixe, which may be trifling in character and accompanied by complete sanity in every other way. A man who had read deeply about Napoleon might conceivably form such an idée fixe and, under its influence, be capable of any fantastic outrage.
No, won't do, my dear Watson. It won't do.
Oh, why not?
No idée fixe would enable your interesting monomaniac to find out where these busts are situated.
All right, then how do you explain it?
I don't attempt to do so, yet. But one thing is obvious. There's nothing abnormal about this bust smasher. There's too much method in its eccentric proceedings for that.
In what way?
But consider, in the Barnicot house, where any sound might arouse the family, the bust was taken outside before being broken. Whereas in the surgery, where there was less danger of an alarm, it was smashed where it stood. The affair seems absurdly trifling, and yet some of my most classic cases have had the least promising beginnings. You'll remember, Watson, how the dreadful business of the Abernethy family was first brought to my notice by the depth which the parsley had sunk into the butter on a hot day. I can't afford to smile at your broken bust, Lestrade. On the contrary, Hello, what's that?
The front doorbell, of course. The great detective, you do have your obtuse moments, Holmes.
Naturally, I know it's the front doorbell. What I want to know is why it's ringing in the middle of the night. Come in. Hello, Mrs. Hudson. What's the matter?
A policeman downstairs, sir, says Mr. Lestrade is wanted right away.
What's up now?
He said as how I was to tell you there'd been another bust busted. He said you'd know what he meant.
Becoming an epidemic.
Confounded, why couldn't they wait until morning to rout me out?
He says you're to come right away because this time there's a murder.
Oh, jeepers. Right, all zeros on rotation, 000. Location doesn't matter. We
Well,
are
Mr. Harris, naturally,
minus
Holmes
50
and I threw on our
off
hats. I picked up my service revolver, and we dashed down the stairs with Lestrade panting behind us. Fortunately, a policeman had a cab waiting. We piled in hurriedly and drove off to Pitt Street, the scene of the crime. Holmes, Lestrade, and I dismissed our cab at the corner of the street. It was obvious that news of the murder had got around.
Here we are, Holmes, number 131 Pitt Street. That must be the house where the crime was committed.
Yes, and a first-class murder it must have been. Nothing less would draw such a crowd in the middle of the night. Notice the look of horrified delight in that messenger boy's face.
Here, let us through. Let us through, I say. We're from Scotland Yard.
Oh, it's the police.
Yes.
Come in, gentlemen, come in. Ah, Mr. Lestrade, thank heaven you got here at last.
Well, if it isn't Mr. Norris Archer of the Central Press Syndicate.
It's an extraordinary thing, Lestrade. All my life I've been collecting other people's news. And now that a real piece of news has come my own way, I'm so confused and bothered that I can't put two words together. If I'd come in here as a journalist, I should have interviewed myself and had 2 columns in every evening paper.
Mr. Archer.
You remember when the Stand fell in Doncaster? Well, I was the only journalist in the Stand, and my journal was the only one that had no account of it, for I was too shaken to write it. And now I'll be too late again with a terrible murder done on my own doorstep.
You'd better tell us just what happened.
Wait a minute, I'll call my wife. She was with me. Minnie! Minnie! The police have come.
God be praised. What a night we've had. I was just saying to Horace, this is what comes of staying up late. If we'd been safe in our bed, we never should have heard the commotion.
Mr. Archer, may I present my friends, Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes. How do you do?
Sherlock Holmes? Dear me, is it as bad as all that? You see, Horace, I told you. Next thing you know, he'll be suspecting you of the murder.
I expect both of them in the murder. That's the first thing I
Inspector
expect.
Lestrade has charged this case.
Well, that's a
on their
relief
doorstep.
anyway. Oh, well, you see, Mr. Lestrade knows Horace, and that's something. You understand. That is
Of course. As a matter of fact, the thing that interests me most of all isn't
How
the
could
murder.
I just...
No,
No, it's the broken bust of
How
Napoleon.
come I can't
yes,
mirror it?
that's it. It all started with that bust. I never did like the man, Napoleon, and why Horace wanted a bust of him sitting in the living room.
We know, Mother. But perhaps I'd better tell the gentleman just what did happen.
Yes, I suppose that would be a good idea.
As Minnie was saying, it all seems to center around that bust of Napoleon that I bought for this very room about 4 months ago.
Where did you purchase it, Mr. Harker?
From Morse Hudson's shop, Mr. Holmes, in Kennington Road. Well, as you may know, gentlemen, a great deal of a journalist's work is done at night. I often write until the early morning.
Just ruining it.
Now, Mother. Well, tonight I was sitting in my den, which is at the top of the house at the back. I'd almost finished my work, and Minnie was trying to get me to come to bed. Just a few minutes, Mother. I'm almost through.
But here it is after 12 again. What must the neighbors think, seeing your light burning all hours of the night?
What does it matter what they think?
Besides, you'll ruin your eyes.
Now, Mother,
What is it you've got to sit up for this time?
it's a new column we're running, Mother. Advice to the Lovelorn by Gwendolyn Desmond.
Advice to the lovelorn? Well, that's indecent. A man writing things like that.
I know, Mother, but better a married man than a single man. If I don't do it, they probably get that young whippersnapper Jones. Lord only knows the things he'd think of with... What's that?
Burglars. I know it's burglars.
Nonsense, Mother. It's probably just the cat. She knocked something off the mantelpiece.
No, I'm sure it's burglars.
Very well. I'll go down and see.
Hurry, Harker, you're not going down there.
Well, how else can I find out if it's the cat or burglar that made that noise?
But they'll kill you.
Nonsense. Give me the poker.
Oh, dear, I wish you wouldn't.
Now, you stay here. I'll be right back.
Stay here? By myself? No, sir, I'm coming too.
All right, Mother, but let go my coattails.
I can't. My knees are all of a tremble. Don't go so fast, Horace.
Mother, don't talk so loud. If it is burglars, you'll scare them off.
That's just what I'm trying to do.
Well, here we are. You see? It's just something that fell off the mantelpiece.
Oh, the hand-painted bonbon dish that Aunt Susie gave us for a wedding present. Smashed to bits.
You see?
Look, Horace, look.
What's the matter?
The window's open. And that bust of Napoleon, it's gone.
Where?
Horace, did you hear that?
Sounded like someone falling against the front door.
Oh, it's horrible. Oh, Horace, don't go.
Yeah, I've got to find out. Just a minute till I get the door open. Hello, there's something heavy pressing against it.
Oh, heaven protect us.
That's it.
That's a man lying on the doorstep.
And his throat is slit from ear to ear.
She's so good at screaming. That's so good for her. Love the old
Will it wear?
scream.
Will it be comfortable? Is it correctly styled? Clippercraft Clothes answer these questions emphatically by delivering even today in this era of high prices the most amazing values you've ever seen. You'll wonder how it's done. Well, it's the great Clippercraft plan, which concentrates the buying power of 1,036 stores from coast to coast and delivers to you these beautifully styled, beautifully tailored clothes, including long-wearing worsteds, at a friendly local store you can trust. Find Clippercraft suits that look much more costly are only $40 and $45. Top coats and fine coverts and worsted gabardine are only $40 and $45, and sport jackets are only $26.50. Yes, selling expensive clothes at inexpensive low prices at the nation's finest independent stores is the great big idea behind the Clippercraft plan. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
These leading stores in the metropolitan area are proud to add their names to Clippercraft in your suit, top coat, and overcoat. In Manhattan, Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th. John Wanamaker Men's Stores, Broadway at 8th and 67 Liberty Street. In Brooklyn, Abraham and Strauss. In Newark, New Jersey, Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge Newark. And in Jamaica, the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue.
And now, suppose we return to the house of Horace Harker, where Holmes is helping Inspector Lestrade to solve a bloodthirsty murder. Did you know the murdered man, Mr. Harker?
No, Mr. Holmes, I did not. They've taken the body to the mortuary.
What did he look like?
Tall, dark, and powerfully built. Poorly dressed, but he didn't have the hands of a laborer. A horn-handled knife was lying in a pool of blood beside him. But whether it was his or whether it was the knife that did the deed, I don't know.
Anything in his pockets?
No card or letters of identification, if that's what you mean. Just an apple, some string, a shilling, a map of London, and a photograph. Here it is.
Excellent. A rather simian countenance, Watson?
Ugly-looking brute. And vicious, too, I should say.
Yes, but look here, Holmes. What's become of the bust?
Ah, the bust. Yes, of course, the bust. He wouldn't dare carry it very far. Someone might see him and identify him. Are there any empty houses around here, Mr. Harker?
There's one right next door.
No, that wouldn't do. Too dark. He had to have light. Dr. Barnicot's statue was found smashed in the passageway with a light from his front door illuminated it.
There's just one other vacant house in this block, Mr. Holmes. Fifth to the right under the street light.
Excellent. That must be the one. Come, Watson. Let's see what we can find.
Wait a minute, I'm coming too.
Very well.
Oh, but you must come back, Mr. Holmes, all of you. You must be famished. Dear me, where's my sense of hospitality? I'll go and put the kettle on right away.
Splendid. We'll be back before he's had a chance to come to a boil. Fifth to the right under the street light. That was what Harker said, wasn't it?
Yes, but I must say, Holmes, I don't see what you can expect to find. It seems to me
Just as I thought. Just as I thought. There's the fifth bust, lying shattered in shards upon the grass.
Destructive brute.
I'd give a great deal to know if he found what he was looking for.
What do you mean?
I can't explain now, but suppose we all meet at Baker Street tomorrow night directly after dinner, and I think I can promise you an exciting evening.
You're on the murderer's trail?
Quite. In the meantime, you, Lestrade, see if you can discover the dead man's identity, while I inquire into the manufacturing of those busts, and see if I can trail the ruffian in the photograph.
That's right. Pick the most exciting chore for yourself.
And the most dangerous. Don't forget that, Lestrade.
Watson, don't quibble. We have a long way to go, and yet we've discovered some rather significant facts
I
tonight.
must say, I don't see anything particularly significant.
In the first place, breaking the bust was not the sole object of tonight's criminal.
Well, how do you know?
If it had been, he'd have broken it inside the house or immediately outside. In the second place, the possession of this trifling bust was worth more in his eyes than a human life. Yes, I think I'm beginning to understand what he was after. Well, Lestrade, how about another cup of coffee?
No, thanks. 2 cups is enough for any man. I'm not the coffee addict you are.
What a pity. It might stimulate the brain.
Now, look here, Holmes. You may think you see your way clear in this matter, but I have my own ideas.
Yes?
The dead man was Pietro Venucci. They knew him down at the yard, all right? He was one of the greatest cutthroats in London, a member of an Italian Black Hat Society, too.
How reprehensible.
A society that punishes its offending members by death. Well, this chap in the photograph was probably a member, too. The whole thing's just one of those Italian feuds.
How simple. But where do the busts come in? And was it just a coincidence that the murdered man was working in the shop of Morse Hudson?
I don't see why the busts have to be brought into the question of the murder.
Oh, but they do, Lestrade. Those busts contain the motive for the murder.
Oh, that sounds like plain lunacy, if you ask me.
No, it's really quite simple. I found this morning at Mr. Morse Hudson's shop that the murdered man had been an employee of his for the last 6 months, previous to which time he'd worked for the firm of Gelder and Company, the firm which molded those busts of Napoleon which someone had been so avidly smashing.
Yes, but Gelder and Company are an old firm. They must have made thousands of busts of Napoleon.
Quite, but it's only the 6th of this particular batch with which we're concerned.
I must say I still don't see.
Naturally. Well, one afternoon over a year ago, the very afternoon those 6 busts had come from the mold, and while they were still wet, in fact, Beppo, another employee, was chased into the workshop by the police. It seems he'd tried to knife Pietro in a street brawl.
Beppo? But who was Beppo?
Oh, didn't I tell you?
No.
Dear me, how absent-minded of me. Beppo was the man in the photograph. The man he tried to knife that day, as you know, is the same fellow found dead on Harker's doorstep last night.
You see, I told you it was a feud.
The most curious part of the incident is that Beppo was holding something very carefully in his hand when he ran into the workroom. And yet, when the police overtook him, they discovered nothing of any interest on him. Beppo was taken off to prison, of course, and was released 2 weeks ago, the day before the first 2 busts were smashed.
Yes, but Holmes, look here. You said there were 6 busts in that particular batch. So far, only 5 have been smashed. Where's the other one?
The sales book of Mr. Morse Hudson shows that it was sold over a month ago to Mr. Joseph Brown of Laburnum Lodge, Chiswick. And now, suppose we pay that worthy gentleman a visit. If luck's with us, it should be an interesting evening.
Yes, but Holmes, isn't it a bit late to go calling? Perhaps Mr. Brown has gone to bed.
I hope so, Watson. I sincerely hope so.
I say, Holmes is going to storm any minute. Can't we come back some other time?
No, Watson, the gentleman we're after is not to be put off by a little unpleasant weather. He must finish his quest as soon as possible. He doesn't dare delay for fear the police will be on his trail. I only hope he hasn't been successful already.
Here we are. This gate says Laburnum Lodge. This is the house.
No lights. Mr. Brown has gone to bed. I knew it.
Good. We won't rouse him. Suppose we confine ourselves to an inspection of his shrubbery.
Look here,
Someone coming along the road. Quick, get behind this hedge.
But I...
Yes, he's opened the gate. He's coming in here.
Possibly Mr. Brown coming home from a lodge meeting.
No, Mr. Brown's probably accustomed to using the front door.
All right. He's trying to get in a window. By Jove, it's a burglar.
And a very expert one, too. He broke the lock like a veteran.
He's going in. Hadn't we better follow him?
No. We'll get him on his way out after he's found what he's after.
That storm's going to break any minute now. Here he comes. He's got something white under his arm.
Get ready.
Get it.
Siete, che cosa volete da me? Lasciatemi stare!
Got
his knife!
No, you drop it. Drop the knife. That's better. All right, put the handcuffs on him, Lestrade.
Yes, sir. He's a tough one, he is.
Gentlemen, allow me to present Beppo, one of Italy's master criminals. So you did want the 6th Napoleon, eh? Don't want to talk? Very well.
Oh, this is the man who committed last night's murder, eh?
Yes, this is the murderer and the bust smasher.
Well, now that you've got the 6th Napoleon, what are you going to do with it?
Lend me your top coat and I'll show you.
Huh? Oh, very well.
Oh, but first come over to the street light.
Come along, you. You know what's good for
Stare,
you.
che cosa volete?
Come along.
Non ho fatto nulla. Non sapete?
Now, first, I wrap the bust in Watson's coat so we won't lose any of the splinters. Then I follow Beppo's procedure and smash it against the lamppost. So,
That's my best top coat. You'll ruin it.
now, we spread the coat on the ground. Look among the fragments.
Esattamente. 9 l'edizione no, la perla è mia. La perla nera è mia, è mia, è mia.
Our friend Beppo seems to be rather excited.
Dammela.
Keep him at distance, Lestrade. I don't want him to do any
No.
snatching.
Stand back now, you. Come along.
Now, let me see. No. No. Yes, by Jove, here it is.
Lasciatemi.
Why, it's a tremendous black pearl.
Yes, Watson.
È mia.
famous black pearl of the Borgias, stolen from a museum in Florence 2 years ago. Devilishly beautiful, isn't it?
Well, that was an exciting discovery, Dr. Watson. But look, there are one or two points I don't understand. How did Pietro figure in the story? Why did they quarrel? How did the pearl get into the bust of Napoleon?
That pearl had been stolen by Beppo and Pietro. They quarreled, and Beppo tried to kill the other chap. He had the pearl in his hand when the police broke up their fight. He ran into the workroom and buried the pearl in one of the soft busts of Napoleon standing on the workroom table. From that time, the feud was on. The straw was right there. Each one was determined to get the pearl. Pietro didn't know where the pearl was hidden, and Beppo was in jail, so the odds were fairly even until Beppo got out. Pietro knew his only chance was to shadow Beppo, which he did, and met his death.
And that disposed of both of them very neatly. And now, Dr. Watson, do you think you'd like to give us an idea about next week's story?
I think I could be persuaded, Mr. Harris. I think I could be persuaded. Let me see. Next week, I think I'll take you down to the Port of London, where Holmes and I discovered a fantastic East Indian temple among the wharves and warehouses. There, in front of a hideous idol, we ran into our old friend, Professor Moriarty. I call it the adventure of the serpent god. My hair, what's still left of it, stands on end when I remember it.
Now, Dr. Watson, how about the adventure of the Sally Martin?
Well, the story began many years ago in the tiny fishing village of Kingsgate on the Kentish coast. At my insistence, Sherlock Holmes had agreed to take a much-needed holiday. We were staying for a few days at a small seaside inn known as the Silver Dolphin. The adventure began, I remember, on a foggy, bitterly cold evening. Holmes and I, after a hearty dinner, were seated in the public bar of the inn talking to a garrulous old sailor. Little did we think that even in that peaceful village, dark tragedy was stalking us. Tragedy that very soon was to be brought to our attention.
Here you are, Albert. Another pint.
Thank you kindly, sir. Here's your pretty good old gentleman.
Amazing master. That's the fifth. I can't think where he puts it.
I see no mystery there, Watson. Go on with your story, Albert. You just reached the point where the shark had turned on you.
Well, gentlemen, I acts on the rail and dives into that raging sea. Pulls out me knife.
Oh, really? Where did you get the knife? I thought you said that you'd lost your clothes in the hurricane.
Stuck to my middle, I was. But I always kept a bowie knife stuck in my belt.
Oh, really? How uncomfortable.
Well, when I see the white belly of the shark turning at me, I let him have it. A rip here, a smash there. Ooh, there was blood all over the place. Never saw such a mess. Storytelling's very dry work, gentlemen.
I'll order you another pint, Albert.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Watson, look who's just come in.
That's our old friend Sergeant Dobson, isn't it?
Yes, and judging by his expression, the local representative of the law has serious business on his mind. Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening, Mr. Holmes. Evening, Dr. Watson.
How are you, Dobson?
Can I have a word with you, private-like?
Of course you can.
Oh, I beg pardon, sir, but you did say something about buying me another pint.
Don't worry, Albert. We'll have it sent over for you.
Please give Albert another pint, Annie. Put it on my bill.
Right you are, Mr. Rose.
Perhaps you wouldn't mind stepping into the private bar, gentlemen.
Very well. Now, Sergeant, sit down and tell us what's on your mind.
Murder, Mr. Holmes.
Great Scott. Who? Where?
Well, have you gentlemen noticed the fancy sailing boat that's been moored out in the cove this past week?
Yes. I was informed that it was owned by George Byron, the Lancashire cotton manufacturer.
That's correct, sir. The boat's named the Sally Martin. And right at this moment, Mr. Byron's lying there in his cabin with a knife in his ribs. Deader than a boiled mackerel.
Gracious me.
I rode ashore to send a telegram to the police at Canterbury, but I left a constable to guard the people aboard.
Good.
I'm going back now to conduct my investigation. But the Canterbury police can't be here before morning, and I was hoping that
We'd help you, Sergeant?
Well, sir, a case like this is a little outside of my experience.
Just a minute, Dobson. Mr. Holmes is still a sick man. It's cold out and foggy. As his doctor, I forbid...
Rubbish. Oh, how can I stay here in the inn while a murder lies waiting to be solved less than a mile away? Come, Watson. The game's afoot.
About a quarter of a mile.
Well, if we don't get there soon, I want to answer for the consequences. I'm a rotten sailor.
Cheer up, Watson. And meanwhile, Sergeant, suppose you give me as many facts as possible. How many people on board the Sally Margaret?
Well, there's 3 passengers, Mr. Holmes, and 2 in the crew.
Well, let's have the passengers first.
Well, there's Mrs. Byron, the dead man's wife. A lot younger than him, she is, and she looks a bit on the flighty side, if you ask me, even though she was having a proper fit of hysterics, like. And then there's Clarence Byron, the dead man's brother.
And what opinion did you form as to his character?
Well, sir, you understand I didn't talk to him much, but he acted cool as a cucumber, just as if murder didn't mean a thing to him.
And the third passenger?
Well, he's a young fella by the name of Hodgson, secretary to the dead man. Very nicely spoken gentleman he is, but it seemed to me as if Mrs. Byron had quite an eye for him, even through her tears. That's why I said she seemed flighty-like.
You're very observant, Sergeant.
Oh, it's just training, sir.
How about the 2 crew members?
Well, there's Captain Small. He seemed perfectly above board, and a man by the name of Coggins. Arthur Coggins. He's a deckhand, and a mighty surly one at that. He gave me quite a bit of back chat when I questioned him.
Holmes, how much further is it? Barely 100 yards, old chap.
Oh, I feel awful too. Hurry up.
Move over, Sergeant. Let me take an oar.
There's the murdered man, Mr. Holmes. That's just how we found him.
Very illuminating.
Look at that murderous knife. It's buried to the hilt in his chest.
Yes, but more interesting than the knife at the moment is the tableau presented in this cabin. What story does it tell you, Watson?
A simple story. Somebody opened the cabin door, came in, stabbed him.
Oh, come now. Surely our years together have made you a little more perceptive than that.
What are you driving at?
Well, for one thing, in his right hand is an open book.
Oh, you've been reading?
Yes, and the sergeant has told us that the oil lantern beside his bunk was still burning when the body was found.
Oh, that's right, Mr. Holmes.
There's no sign of a struggle. Bedclothes are and even rumpled. No cry for help was heard, so let us reconstruct the scene. Mr. Byron was lying in his bunk, reading, as you observed, Watson.
Oh, quite easy.
The door opens. The murderer comes in, the knife hidden in his or her clothing. The victim has no suspicion of his fate because the murderer was someone who could enter his cabin at will. And suddenly, the fatal blow is struck.
Then it must have been one of the 3 passengers.
I think we may reasonably include the captain. The master of a schooner surely would have the ability to enter his employer's cabin without creating suspicion.
Oh, you're right, Mr. Holmes.
I think we've seen enough here, Sergeant. Where are the passengers?
In their cabin, sir. I told them to wait there until they were sent for. The main saloon's empty. You could see them in there nice and bright at night.
Splendid. Then let's go there. At once.
There, Mrs. Byron. My friend's only trying to help you.
Oh, how can he help me? He can't bring poor George back to life again, can he?
No, madam. But at least I can try to find a murderer for you.
He's right, Holmes. So take it easy, like, and answer his questions.
Very well. What do you want to know, Mr. Holmes?
Can you suggest anyone who might have had the motive for murdering your husband?
Oh, 6 men. George made a lot of money. He was a hard businessman. He had many enemies.
But none of his business enemies had an opportunity of killing him tonight.
His biggest enemy, though I never could make him believe it, is on this very boat now. His brother Clarence.
He just said to me, his own brother. Oh, come, madam.
Oh, it's true, Clarence sponged on him. I've done for years. And ever since I married George, he's tried to be more friendly to me than a brother-in-law should be. Just because I was once in the theater, he seems to think I didn't know how they laid it
Oh, you were in the theater? I wonder if you knew a girl who was Taylor's pretty little figure.
Watson, surely this is no time for your theatrical reminiscences. Mrs. Byron, are you familiar with the terms of your husband's will?
Everything he has comes to me.
Huh?
Well, that's perfectly natural, isn't it?
Perfectly. But in that case, your brother-in-law would hardly seem to profit from your husband's death.
I don't know what you're suggesting, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. You think I stabbed him? Wouldn't that be strange?
Mrs. Byron, I suggested nothing. But I'm interested to notice that you answer your questions as well as ask them.
Well, I'm not staying here to answer any more questions, Mr. Holmes. I'm going back to my cabin. If you want me, that's where you'll find me.
No, wait a minute.
Let her go, Sergeant. And please ask Mr. Hodgson, the secretary, to come in here.
Just as you say, sir.
From the soul, she's a fine little thing, isn't she? Attractive, too. What do you make of her, Holmes? It's hard to say.
If one wished to deduce motive, it would be easy.
Well, she must be 25 years younger than her husband, and a fortune coming to her at his death, eh?
Precisely. And despite her own statement, a woman would have the strength to stab an unsuspecting man to death.
Here's Mr. Hodgson, sir.
Thank you, Sergeant. Please sit down, Mr. Hodgson.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. This is a shocking business.
It is indeed, Mother.
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Any questions you like?
When did you last see your employer tonight?
Shortly after dinner, Mr. Holmes. He was taking a turn round the deck. We chatted for a few minutes, and then I went to my cabin and retired. It was about 9:30 or 9:45.
You heard no cry for help, no shout in the night?
No, none. The first I knew of the tragedy was when the captain awakened me.
Can you suggest who might have had a motive for his murder?
Mr. Holmes, that's a little hard to answer.
Come now, Mr. Hodgson. Don't hold anything back. You'll have to talk in a court of law, you know.
Yes, I suppose so. Well, gentlemen, in my capacity as secretary, I did know that my employer's brother, Clarence, has been borrowing heavily. Only yesterday morning, I was compelled to draw my employer's attention to an irregularity in the monthly bank statement. A £500 check had been drawn. The signature was a forgery.
You think that Clarence Byron committed that forgery?
Yes, I do, sir. And so did my employer. The two brothers had a terrible row about it.
Sergeant, will you be good enough to ask Mr. Clarence Byron to come here, please?
Right you are, Mr. Holmes.
One very personal question, Mr. Hodgson. Was the relationship between you and your employer's wife a purely social one?
As a matter of fact, Mrs. Byron has been very kind to me.
Oh, really?
My family are dead, and she's taken an interest in me. But I give you my word that it's been purely platonic.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes, Sergeant Hodgson?
Mr. Clarence Byron's lying in his bunk, sir. He says he can't come here. He's got a heart attack. A heart attack? That's rather convenient, eh, Holmes?
Yes, Watson. And it's also convenient that there's a doctor aboard. Let's go and see him, shall we?
Do you feel any better, Mr. Byron? Yes. Yes, I do, Doctor. That injection you gave me helped. So did you tell us, I suppose? No, it wasn't. Holmes' heart's perfectly sound. He was simulating an attack.
So I gathered. Since an injection of plain water apparently gave him immediate relief.
Plain water? Yes, your heartbeat was full and regular, and your color normal. So I decided to try an experiment.
And a very successful one. Why did you pretend to have a heart attack, Mr. Byron?
I wasn't pretending. I do have a bad heart.
That I don't doubt. Only a bad heart could prompt you to swindle your brother and then murder him.
I didn't murder him. No, I can tell you who did.
Oh? You are very eager to shift suspicion, Mr. Byron. Who, in your opinion, murdered your brother?
That deckhand, Arthur Coggins. Only a few days ago, he threatened my brother's life.
You heard him make the threat?
Yes, I did. It was his second day aboard. It was early in the morning. I was strolling on deck when I came on this man Coggins. He's standing by the mainmast, practicing throwing a knife. You're pretty handy with a knife, Coggins.
What's that?
I said you're pretty handy with a knife.
Yes. I know how to use a knife.
You think you're going to like being on this ship?
No. Not if I don't get treated like a human being. Just yesterday, the owner yells out to me, you, whatever your name is, treating me like dirt. Whatever your name is. Can't he find out my name? I'm as good as he is. One of these dark nights, he'll get what's coming to him.
That's what he said, Mr. Holmes. And he looked as if he meant business. He's an expert with a knife, you say. Holmes, do you think it's possible that Coggins threw the knife through a porthole into the dead man's cabin?
Yes, Watson, it's possible. Your story was interesting, Mr. Byron, though, of course, entirely uncorroborated. I think we'll go and talk to the captain and see if he can supplement your information.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I can't answer for the passengers. That's no business of mine.
I appreciate that, Captain Small, but you'll answer for your crew, no doubt.
That I will, sir. And this man Coggins is a no good if ever I saw one. Insubordinate, surly, always talking about how he's as good and better than those who employ him.
Then why did you engage him, Captain?
I didn't, sir. That was arranged by my employer, Mr. George Byron. If I had my way, Coggins would have gone back ashore the first day he stepped aboard.
Where is his... Hey, Scott. Is that a revolver shot?
Well, it sounded like it. And it came from the forecastle.
Mr. Holmes! Mr. Holmes! This way, Sergeant. Good heavens.
Why, it's Coggins.
With a smoking revolver in his right hand. He committed suicide.
Yes. Very convincing, isn't it? His head is sprawled on a piece of foolscap. A confession note, no doubt.
Yes, it is. Look at this. I killed him, and with my record, I knew you'd catch me, so I took the quick way out. Case is solved, Holmes.
On the contrary, Watson, it's becoming more involved. If you look closely, you will realize that we now have 2 murders to solve instead of 1. And somewhere on this boat, a murderer is still at large, and may strike a 3rd time.
What a disaster this is turning into. Oh, it was so
Just a moment,
close.
we'll find out if the murderer does strike a 3rd time. But first, men, if you're bald, you might as well grin and bear it, because science tells us it's impossible to grow hair where the hair roots are dead. But you certainly can make the most of the hair you've got. And men, you can't beat Kreml hair tonic. To help you, Kreml contains very special hair grooming ingredients found in no other hair tonic. That's why Kreml keeps hair neatly in place longer and without that offensive, greasy look. But Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. Let me repeat. Kreml does lots more than keep hair looking handsome. A massage with Kreml helps stimulate circulation right in the surface of the scalp. Your scalp feels so alive, so invigorating. At the same time, it removes loose dandruff and has a fine lubricating effect on a dry scalp. And for hair that's so dry that it cracks and falls, remember Kreml actually helps condition the hair, in that it leaves it feeling so much softer and more pliable. Men, buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. It's such a nice, clean product, you can use it every day so that your hair always looks its best. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. So, Dr. Watson, the apparent suicide turned out to be another of the murderer's victims.
Yes, Mr. Bell. Holmes at once sent Sergeant Dobson to check the passengers while the 3 of us stood in that tiny cabin, an oil lamp swinging above us and shedding a strange glow on the macabre scene. I asked him why he was so positive that it wasn't suicide.
You will notice, Watson, that the revolver is in Coggins' right hand.
Yes, Holmes, I don't see what...
Then ignore the right hand and observe the left. A deckhand is accustomed to hard manual labor. Notice the calluses on his left hand and the freedom from them on the right.
By Jove, he was left-handed.
Yes, he was, Mr. Holmes. I've noticed him at work.
Again, you'll observe the shot entered his head from behind the right ear. A remarkable feat of dexterity for a left-handed man.
And the murderer had the note ready, shot Coggins from behind, but made the mistake of placing the revolver in the wrong hand.
Precisely. But this note, obviously in disguised writing, poses another problem. What does the phrase, "and with my record, I knew you'd catch me," mean?
He must have had a police record.
But why volunteer the information? I wonder if the murderer had a reason. Captain, you said that Coggins was engaged by Mr. George Byron.
Well, sir, he told me about the new man, but I don't know that he interviewed him personally.
Where was he engaged?
At the Seamen's Hostel here in the village.
Well, what are you getting at, Holmes?
Surely it's obvious, Watson. If this man Coggins had a police record, his murderer might have deliberately placed him on this boat knowing he would be suspected. Yes, it's possible. But the question is, who engaged him? Well, Sergeant?
All 3 of them in their cabins, Mr. Holmes, and swore they unlocked them. And yet we know that one of them must have slipped down here and shot Coggins.
Lock them in their cabin, Sergeant. Keep good watch on them. Dr. Watson and I are going ashore.
Sure? Why, Holmes? When the murderer's here on this boat?
Because I'm convinced that the clue to his identity lies waiting for us at the Seamen's Hostel. Where is the place, Sergeant? And who runs it?
Ulmar Jenkins. It's the house just next to the Red Lion on the quayside.
Splendid. Watson, we're taking this note and rowing ashore.
Another trip in that filthy rowing boat? Must we, Holmes?
It's a fine time of night to rootle a respectable woman out of a warm bed, I must say, and no mistake.
But Mrs. Jenkins...
Call me Ma. Everyone calls me Ma.
Very well. We've come to you because you're the one person who can help solve 2 murders that took place on the Sally Martin tonight.
Murder? Come into me parlor. I'll light the lamp. There. Now, what's this you say happened aboard the Sally Martin?
Fiona, Mr. Byron was stabbed to death about 10 o'clock tonight. Later on, a seaman by the name of Arthur Coggins was killed, too.
Arthur was killed.
You knew this man, Arthur Coggins?
Of course I did. Over a year he's been staying with me. He couldn't get a ship because of his record.
What record was that?
He brought his ship's papers to me. They all do when they're out of a berth. The last ship he was on 2 years ago it was, he got mixed up in a knife fight.
Oh, did he?
Alaska was killed and Arthur arrested. They couldn't prove he was guilty, but he hasn't had a berth since because it was written in his papers.
That fits into your theory, Holmes. The murderer engaged him deliberately, knowing his record.
Exactly. Mrs. Marr,
That's me.
do you recall the name of the man who interviewed Coggins?
No.
The man who engaged him for the Sally Martin?
No. But it's here in my book. It's the last entry I made. Here it is.
Clarence Byron.
Brother. There's our man, Holmes.
Could you describe the appearance of Mr. Byron, Ma?
No, I can't say I remember much about it. He was all muffled up. He was a nice-spoken gentleman, though.
You can recall no clue to his identity? It's worth a sovereign to you if you can.
A sovereign? Well, let me think. Yes, there's one thing I do remember. He had a gold signet ring on his right hand.
Splendid, Ma. Watson, the case is solved.
Of course it is. Clarence is the man.
May I congratulate you on your powers of observation, Watson? Ma, here are 2 sovereigns for you.
2? But you
The
said...
extra one is for the privilege of borrowing this registry book of yours for a few hours.
No.
I'm taking it back to the Sally Martin with us so that we may compare the handwriting in it with that of a murderer.
Oh, but this is ridiculous, Mr. Holmes. Why should you ask Clarence to sign his name?
Bear with me a few moments longer, Mrs. Byron, and you will see why.
Lest if I know what you're up to, Mr. Holmes, I
A little
know.
patience, Sergeant, and you'll see, too.
Have you any objection to signing your name, Mr. Byron?
I suppose not, though I'm just as confused as the rest of them.
There. Thank you. And now, Mr. Hodgson, I wonder if you would mind helping us.
Of course not, Mr. Holmes. What can I do?
You saw the forged check. I wonder if you'd try and imitate the signature that Mr. Clarence Byron has just written.
Mr. Byron's signature?
Yes, his writing is extremely individual, but I think you could help prove that under certain circumstances it can be elastic. See how nearly you can imitate it. I think it will help us to prove that he murdered his brother.
Clarence, you did murder George. I knew it.
Mabel, you're out of your mind. Will you copy his signature, Mr. Hodgson?
Of course, if you think it'll help you.
Holmes, look, Hodgson.
Sign, please, Mr. Hodgson.
Clarence Byron.
There. Thank you. That's a remarkably fine gold signet ring you're wearing, Mr. Hodgson.
Thank you.
Watson, give me Ma Jenkins' registry book.
There you are, Holmes.
Sergeant, I want you to compare the signature in this book with that which Mr. Hodgson has just given us. I think you'll agree that they're both written by the same man.
They are. Well, blow me down.
So he forged Clarence's signature.
Exactly. He's quite a specialist in handwriting.
Albert, you didn't kill him. You couldn't have done it.
It's no good, Mabel, when you know it as well as I do. You knew what I was up to. You helped me. You suggested I use Clarence's name.
That's a lie.
A lie or not, Sergeant, I suggest you take out your notebook. They're talking in front of witnesses, so make the most of the fact. The sun's coming up, Watson.
Yes, the sea's calmer, Higham.
A very satisfactory start to a new day. The confessed murderer and his accomplice both have been safely in the care of the police.
Yes, I was convinced until we found him murdered that Coggins, the deckhand, was the guilty party.
Exactly what you were meant to think.
I thought that as he was an expert knife thrower, he could have thrown one through a porthole into the dead man's cabin.
No, Watson. Both portholes were at the head of the bunk, but the knife wound was from the underside of the heart and upwards. It would have been impossible to have thrown the knife through a porthole at such an angle.
Yes, I can see it all now. Young Hodgson, coveting his employer's wife, planned a knife murder and then engaged Coggins, knowing that with his record, he'd be the logical suspect.
Yes, but like so many murderers, he tried to be too clever. He left enough clues to hang himself half a dozen times.
Why did Clarence pretend to have that heart attack?
the nervousness of a person who knows himself to be under suspicion. A futile attempt to escape interrogation.
Oh, I'm glad it's all over. I'm exhausted and I'm frozen, and I'm delighted to think that this is my last trip in this horrible rowing boat.
Whereas I'm feeling very stimulated, and in a distinctly altruistic mood.
Altruistic? What do you mean, Holmes?
If you'll observe the flurry of excitement at the quayside, the figures in blue serge that are at this moment embarking in boats, you'll realize that the police from Canterbury have just arrived.
I still don't see how altruism comes into the picture.
I intend to claim no credit in the solution of this crime. And in consequence, I see little reason why our old friend Sergeant Dobson should not very soon be known as Inspector Dobson.
Tonight's story, The Adventure of the Empty House. Well, here we are as usual in Dr. Watson's hospitable study, all ready and waiting for our weekly treat. What's it to be tonight, Dr. Watson?
But tonight I think I'll tell you how Holmes made an unexpected and I may say dramatic return after many years' absence. You know, I've always said it's a good thing to absent yourself from time to time. Makes people appreciate you come back. That's what Holmes said the time he was missing for 3 years.
3 years? That's a pretty long lapse of time.
Yes, it was rather. Everyone thought he was dead. What a horrible time that was. I couldn't bear to live in our old lodgings in Baker Street. Associations and everything. It's funny how sentimental we all are underneath. I'd taken up my quarters in a more fashionable part of town and resumed my medical practice. It was after Holmes had succeeded in driving Professor Moriarty out of England. We all believed Holmes had sacrificed his life to rid society of that evil spirit.
That sounds terrifically exciting, Doctor. Won't you tell us how Holmes managed to put a finish to Moriarty?
What? Kill off Professor Moriarty before I've told you the rest of our adventures with him? I should say not. Never catch me throwing away good material. But let's get down to cases.
Fair enough.
Very well. It was in the spring of the year 1894 when all of London, the fashionable world in particular, was dismayed by the death under most unusual circumstances of the Honourable Ronald Adair. That likable young gentleman was the second son of the Earl of Maynooth. He lived, together with his mother, the Countess of Maynooth, and his sister Hilda, at 427 Park Lane. The youth moved in the best society, but was very fond of cards, played continually.
Aha, piling up gambling debts he couldn't pay.
Well, as a matter of fact, it came out in evidence that he had actually won as much as £420 in one sitting at his club the week previous. From Godfrey Miller and Lord Balmoral, I believe it was. His partner was a certain Colonel Moran.
But then he must have been well ahead of the game.
Oh, quite. And yet it was to this easygoing, likeable, I might even say lucky young aristocrat that death came in a most strange and unexpected form on the night of the March the 30th. He returned from his club shortly after 10, his mother and sister having gone to the opera. The butler, Peter, swore that he heard him enter the front room on the second floor, generally used as his sitting room. The night being chilly, he had lit a fire, and as it showed a tendency to smoke, one of the front windows had been opened about 4 inches. Nothing further was heard from this sitting room until 11:30, the hour of the return of Lady Maynooth and her daughter. Peters testified that her ladyship seemed rather agitated.
Gracious, Hilda. I declare I'm chilled to the bone. Sorry, Mama. Oh, Peters, will you help me with my carriage boots?
Certainly, milady. You returned so early. I trust the opera was not a disappointment.
Oh, no, indeed, Peters. It was heavenly. Only Mamma can never bear to stay for the death scenes at the end.
So depressing, I always think.
Well, Mamma, I've always thought Carmen was terribly gay. Just because he knifes her in the last scene doesn't...
No, I know. But so primitive, so brutal. And that bit in the gypsy camp, where Carmen keeps turning up the ace of spades, the card of death. I had the queerest foreboding during that scene, as though Ronnie needed me. Oh, dear, I do wish he wouldn't play whist so often. Good for him. A boy his age should have other interests. I wish I could get that ace of spades out of my mind. I can't help feeling it means something.
Oh, nonsense, Mamma. You've just given yourself another case of the fidgets.
The English climate that's depressing you, that's all. One day of sunshine and you'll be as gay as a lark. I'm sure I hope so. Oh, dear, listen to that wind. Hark and rain, rain and hark. Peters, has Mr. Ronald come in yet?
Yes, milady. Over an hour ago. He's upstairs in his sitting room.
Well, thank heaven for that. I think I'll just go up and say goodnight to him. That's right, Mama. Make sure he isn't sitting in a draught. Hilda, really? I declare I don't know what children are coming to nowadays. No respect for their parents. Good night, darling. And you're not to sit up till all hours, mind. No, Mama. Really, I don't know how young girls nowadays expect to keep their looks if they never go to bed. Oh, dear, that wind, it's so eerie. Ronnie? Ronnie, dear, it's Mother. Why, it's locked. The door's locked. Ronnie, are you all right? Ronnie! What's the matter? Ronnie, he's locked himself in. He doesn't answer. Peters, Hilda, oh, come quickly, I'm afraid. Oh, Ronnie, Ronnie, why don't you answer?
Now, don't worry, milady.
It's all right, Mother, he's probably fallen asleep. Ronnie, oh, Hilda, I'm frightened. Peters, time to break the door down.
I can try, milady.
Here, let me help. Now then, both together.
There he is, lady. I've fallen asleep at the desk.
But he looks so strange. Cards scattered everywhere, and look there. The ace of spades. There's blood on it. Blood dripping onto the carpet. Ronnie! Oh. Peters, quick, help me. She's fainted.
Oh, dear, dear.
Here, put her on the couch.
No. Poor Lady Manus.
Oh, dear, Mother.
Shall I call the doctor, miss?
Oh, never mind, Mother. It's Ronnie we have to worry about. Maybe it's not too late. Oh, Ronnie. Oh, his head. How horrible.
Shot with a soft bullet. Better not look, miss. It's not nice.
Oh, Ronnie, darling, why did you do it?
He didn't, miss.
Oh, but Peters, he must have the door was locked on the inside.
It's not suicide, Miss Hilda. It's murder. Mr. Ronnie couldn't have done it. There's no weapon anywhere in the room.
But look here, Dr. Watson. Ronald Adair was in the second-story sitting room with the door locked on the inside.
Exactly, Mr. Harris. Furthermore, he was in the room alone.
Yes, but if someone else shot him, how is that possible?
That's what puzzled the authorities. No one could have climbed up to the open window without leaving traces of some sort. The outside wall was perfectly smooth, no ivy, no water pipe. Furthermore, it was a drop of over 20 feet from the window to the ground.
Well, then the murderer couldn't have been in the room with young Adair. He must have shot at it from the street below.
Remember, the window was open only 4 inches, and the glass was not shattered.
That would be a pretty remarkable shot, Doctor.
Furthermore, Park Lane is not an unfrequented thoroughfare, and there is a cab stand within 50 yards of the house, and yet no one heard a shot.
Nice little problem.
No, exactly. Scotland Yard was at its wits' end. Our old friend, Inspector Lestrade, even went so far as to consult me in the matter, knowing how familiar I was with Holmes' method of deduction. And so I promised to have a look at the facade of Lady Maynard's house in Park Lane to see if anything suggested itself to me.
And did it?
Now, Mr. Harris, you're anticipating again.
Sorry.
Well, so it was. But around 6 o'clock that evening, I found myself at the Oxford Street end of Park Lane. A heterogeneous collection of loafers on the pavement, all staring up at a particular window, directed me to the house I had come to see. Good evening, Constable.
Good evening, Dr. Watson, sir. I was told you might be dropping around for a look to see the crime.
Yes, nice little crowd you've collected here.
Yes, sir. Nothing like a good murder to bring him out of their house. Hey, look at that old codger up there with the white whiskers. Pushed his way up to the front. He ain't been out of doors for months. Looks very dusty, he does.
Oh, in the bibliophile.
The what, sir?
Book lover. Notice the titles of the volumes under his arm. Say, let's have a look. Origin of Tree Worship, Sign language of the Druids, life in early Crete. Evidently collects obscure volumes either as a trade or a hobby.
Well, I never would have noticed. I'll hand it to you, Dr. Watson. You're almost as good with your deductions as Mr. Sherlock Holmes himself.
Elementary, my dear Constable, elementary. Poor old fellow. Just got a bad cough. Lung condition, probably. Well, there doesn't seem to be anything much to discover. No possible way of scaling the front of the building from below. How about the roof? Could he have come across from another building?
No, sir. Inspector Lestrade looked at that first thing. Roof's all divided off with iron bars. Spikes on them. Now, the easy to break into is the Bank of England.
Well, may as well be getting on home. Yes, I dare say even Holmes couldn't solve this.
Here, look where you're going, you clumsy fool.
I say, I'm terribly sorry. I hope you're not hurt.
Who cares about me? It's my books that matter. Struck them right out of my hand. There they are, lying all over the road. My only covers.
Oh, please, let me pick them up.
No, you don't. Don't you touch them. You've done enough damage already. Mercy on us. Such a mess. Nobody appreciates good books nowadays.
At least let me apologize.
Go away. Don't bother me. Can't you see I'm busy? Go, can't you? You're no use standing around here.
Well, maybe he's right. Good night, Constable. Good night, Doctor. Straw knows where to find me in case he wants me. Oh, while I was out, Rosie.
No, sir.
Oh, good. Maybe my luck is in tonight. It was about time I had a peaceful evening at home. Oh, I spoke too soon. See what it is this time, Rosie. Croup or measles?
Yes, sir, right away.
No more privacy than a Siamese twin. Dr. Concord is so his own. And as for ever Oh, yes, Rosie, who is it? And what does he think he has?
It ain't a patient, sir.
No? What then?
I don't rightly know, sir. He's an old fellow with white whiskers, like a billy goat. Said to tell you it was your bibliophile calling.
What? Who the bibliophile?
You're surprised to see me so soon, eh?
Well, how do you do? Come in.
Thank you.
That's all, Rosie.
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, please sit down. I hope you're recovered from the bump I gave you.
Well, that's what I came to see you about, Dr. Watson.
Oh, yes?
I've got a conscience, sir, and when I chanced to see you come into this house, I came hobbling after you because I said to myself, I'll just step in and see that kind gentleman and tell him I'm sorry I was a bit gruff a while back and no harm meant. And I'm much obliged for offering to pick up my book.
Oh, not at all.
Maybe you collect books yourself.
Well, no, I can't say that I do.
Never too late to learn. Now, here's a copy of British Birds, and here's a very fine Catullus.
Yes, but...
Or perhaps this Holy War be more in your line.
Well, really, I don't think...
In every one of them. With 5 volumes, you could just fill that gap on the second shelf. So untidy, my dear Watson, quite unlike your old self. Holmes, obviously. I wondered how long it'd take you to penetrate my disguise. You're not dead. Your reasoning, my dear Watson, as usual, is faultless.
I am. For heaven's sake.
Easy, Watson, easy.
My dear Holmes, I think I sit down.
It's a very good idea. I'd better have a nip of this brandy.
Yes, I do with a place, sir.
My dear Watson, 1,000 apologies. I had no idea you'd be so affected.
But I'm not made of chill steel like you, Holmes. Where's my brandy?
Here you are.
That's better. So it's really you standing here in my study. Well, thank heaven, why you old reprobate. How in heaven's name did you ever come back alive out of that dreadful castle where Professor Moriarty met his death?
It's quite simple. I was never there.
Yes, but good heavens, Holmes, it's been 3 years. You let us believe you were dead all that time. Now, was that nice?
Not nice, Watson, but necessary. You see, Moriarty's gang was still to be dealt with. I was much safer if they believed I'd met my death at the same time as his leader. For 3 years, I've been living in disguise, tracking the members of that foul brotherhood to the ends of the earth.
Now I'm happy to say there's only one left to be dealt with.
But look here, Holmes, why didn't you let me know who you were when I bumped into you in Park Lane just now?
Because, my dear Watson, you were being watched by the man I'm after. The last of Moriarty's gang.
Good heavens, who is he?
Someone you doubtless know, Watson. You may have even played whist with him on numerous occasions and lost. Most people lose when they play with the tiger, as Moriarty used to call him. A clever man, Watson. Very clever. He not only suspects that I'm alive, he even guesses I've returned to London.
Good Lord.
Yes, but I mean to take advantage of this cleverness. I've set a trap for it. I expect to catch my tiger tonight.
Tonight?
Exactly. I don't suppose you'd care to come along.
You just try to prevent me, that's all I have to say. Just wait till I get my hat and stick.
I think you'll find your old army revolver a little more appropriate, Watson.
I say, Holmes, do we have to do all this pussyfooting down dark news and through smelly stables?
Absolutely, my dear Watson. It's essential that we should not be followed at this stage of the game. Yes, we passed Manchester Street and Blandford Street. Here, down this narrow passage.
Good Lord. It's as dark as the black hole of Calcutta.
Here, scale this fence.
Scale the fence?
Now, don't tell me you let yourself get out of condition during my absence.
Certainly not, only, do you think it's quite dignified?
Probably not, but who'll ever know? Will you?
All right. I've ruined the knees of my trousers.
Oh, stop burbling, Watson, and come along. We've got to get into this house.
Yes, but look here, it's an empty house.
Quite. That's why I selected it. Now, where did I put that key?
Don't tell me you're not going to pick the lock. Holmes, you're losing your grip.
Quiet. Come in. Easy does it. Shut the door after you. Gently, my dear Watson.
Well, I'm doing my best. There was a draft. Well, now what?
Come along upstairs. We should get a good view from the windows of the upper front room.
You know, Holmes, there's something spooky about an empty house. Strange noises, boards squeaking.
Easy. We turn a corner here. You with me?
Oh, absolutely.
This is the room. Excellent. The light from the street lamps, all the illumination we shall need.
Look here, Holmes. There's something familiar about this street out there. Well, of course, it's Baker Street.
Exactly. We're in Camden House, which stands opposite our old quarters.
Joe, no wonder it looked familiar. But why station ourselves here?
Because it commands an excellent view of our historic dwelling. Might I trouble you, my dear Watson, to draw a little nearer to the window, taking every precaution not to show yourself.
Why?
And then look up at our old rooms. We'll see if 3 years of absence have entirely taken away my power to surprise you.
Well, the windows of our sitting room are lighted. I think there's a man sitting in front of one. Well, look here, it's you. That is at least it's your silhouette.
The bus stop, to be exact. Anything else of interest in Baker Street?
Let's see. There's pretty reputable-looking fellows leaning against a lamppost.
Excellent, Watson. I expected them.
Holmes, good heavens, your head. I mean the dummy. It moved.
Of course, our old friend Mrs. Hudson has orders to move it from below from time to time. Listen, what was that?
Sounded like a door closing.
Yes. I felt a draft. By all that's holy, he's going to operate from inside this building. I expected he'd work from the street as he did before. Quick, Watson, we've got to get out of here. You probably want this window.
You mean whoever we're after is coming in here?
Of course. Quick, Watson, into the next room. Here. Stand in the shadow where we can watch him without being seen.
I hear footsteps.
He's coming. Quiet. You value your life.
Standing in the doorway. His face is in the shadow of his hat. Great Scott, his eyes blaze in the dark like a cat's.
Like a tiger's, Watson.
He's crossing to the window. He's raising the window.
Not very far, Watson. That won't be necessary.
his walking stick. Why is he pointing it out the window?
It's a gun, Watson. Devilish invention. Doesn't make a sound. He's going to take a shot at my silhouette. When we hear the window across the street crash, we know he's fired.
He's aiming.
Get him, Watson, get him! Don't move, you want the gun? I can put your head behind. Not before I squeeze the life out of you. Oh, you don't. Watson, are you all right? I knocked him out.
As I have to, Dick. What's that for?
Those two men from Scotland Yard down in the street leaning against the lamppost. I must say, I thought our friend here would do his dirty work outside so they could deal with him firsthand. Here come the regulars. Well, if it isn't the Strand.
You bet it is. It took the job myself. And maybe we weren't glad to get your message at Scotland Yard half an hour ago. Although I must say we've done pretty well down there in your absence.
Really? Solved the Ronald Adair mystery yet?
Oh, well, that is...
Our sleeping beauty seems to be coming too. Gentlemen, allow me to present Colonel Sebastian Moran, late of Her Majesty's Indian Army. I believe I'm correct, Colonel, in saying that your bag of tigers still remains unrivaled.
You go to blazers.
Yes, a remarkable shot. You and your air gun were invaluable to the late Professor Moriarty, eh?
I might have known that wasn't you in the window.
Quite. I'm surprised that such a simple stratagem could deceive so old a shikar.
What do you mean by that?
How often, Colonel, have you tethered a goat to a tree, lain above it with your rifle, and waited for the bait to attract your tiger? This empty house is my tree. You are my tiger. The only difference being that I did not care to be the goat myself. Take him away, Lestrade.
Just a moment. You can't arrest me for taking a shot at a dummy, not even if it's the dummy of Sherlock Holmes.
That's quite right. I arrest you for the murder of the Honorable Ronald Adair, because you are the only man alive capable of shooting a man through the slightly open window from the street below without being heard. A truly remarkable shot, Colonel. A bit too remarkable. That's how I knew you were the murderer.
And I'll come along, you. Frank, bring that stick along.
Right, sir.
We'll need it as evidence.
Well, Watson, what do you say? Shall we step across the street to our old quarters?
Right,
I think you'll find everything just as it used to be, and I'm sure Mrs. Hudson is anxiously awaiting us with sandwiches and a steaming pot of coffee.
Ah.
You see, I remember your weakness.
My weakness, I like that. And that, Mr. Harris, is the story of how I went to Baker Street again and started another series of incredible and amazing adventures, which I should tell you about, if it won't bore you.
Well, what do you think, Dr. Watson? You know, there's just one thing I don't understand about tonight's story, though. Why did Colonel Moran kill Ronald Adair?
Because Adair had discovered Moran was cheating at cards and threatened to expose him. You remember that I said Adair had won £400 at whist the week before with Moran as his partner.
Yes.
That amount made Adair suspicious. He discovered the cards were marked. The very cards, by the way, which were found beside the deck. He examined them to be sure he'd made no mistake. That's why the door was locked on the inside. He didn't want anyone to interrupt him.
Tonight's story, The Adventure of Shoscombe Old Place. And so, once again, we raise the familiar brass door knobber of Dr. John Watson.
Well, Mr. Stark, come in. This is indeed a pleasure. I've been told we'll have to get along with a substitute for Mr. Harris for a few weeks, but I had no idea he'd turn out to be an old friend.
I wore my Clippercraft suit, Dr. Watson, so it wouldn't seem too strange in this program. What's on the agenda for tonight?
Well, it concerns the strange and slightly horrendous affair at Shoscombe Old Place, in which Holmes investigated the graves in an ancient burial crypt.
Sounds promising.
And unearthed the fact that certain bones had been disposed of in the furnace.
Wow, my hair is beginning to stand up on end already.
Yes, but the adventure began placidly enough one rainy morning. Holmes and I had just finished an excellent breakfast in our rooms in Baker Street. I was gazing idly through the sporting columns, trying to decide what horse to back in the forthcoming derby.
And Holmes?
Holmes was pottering around with a low-piled microscope, doing some sort of an experiment.
Daredevil quoted as favorite, eh? Up and Atom, odds 10 to 1. Shoscombe Prince, 40 to 1. Huh. Wonder what's brought the odds down on that horse.
Aha! Glue, Watson. It's glue.
Jack Horner and Break a Day. What did you say, Holmes?
I was merely telling you the phenomenal fact that the microscope showed that there's glue in this bit of dust.
Glue? What difference does it make? Glue or paste or even sticking plaster? Can't you see I'm busy? Lucky lady, Pride of Cornwall.
The fact that there is glue in this dust is going to cost a man his life.
And, I say cost a man's life? Glue?
Now you're interested, eh, Watson? Well, come over here and take a peek through this microscope.
It's nothing but a blur to me.
Wait, let me adjust it. There. What do you see now?
Some long, matted hairs.
Those are infinitesimal fibers from a tweed cap. The criminal's tweed cap. The irregular grey masses are dust. These are epithelial scales on the left.
Yes, but what are those shiny amber-colored crystals in the center?
That is the glue.
Yes, but how does a man's life depend on those?
In the St. Pancras case, you may remember that a cap was found beside the dead policeman. The accused man denies it's his. The stuff under the microscope was taken from one of the seams of that cap and proves the man was lying.
But how?
The man is a picture frame maker who habitually handles glue. Well, that case is closed. I had a new client who's due to call at 10. He's late. By the way, Watson, you have some knowledge of horse racing, I believe.
Well, I ought to. It's cost me about half my year's pension.
Good. Then you can be my handy guide to the turf, as I believe you call your racing Bible.
Well, what would you like to know?
Does the name Sir Robert Norberton mean anything to you?
Oh, rather. He lives at Shoscombe Old Place.
Yes, the man himself. What's he like?
Tall, muscular, has a devil of a temper. He once horsewhipped Sam Brewer, the Curzon Street moneylender on Newmarket Heath.
Interesting. Does he often indulge in such pastimes?
Well, he has the reputation of being a dangerous man, the most daredevil rider in Europe. See, he won the Grand National a few years back. One of those men who have missed their true generation. He would have been a buck in the days of the Regency. A boxer, a heavy gambler, a devil with the ladies, and a first-class shot.
Capital, Watson. A perfect thumbnail sketch. Now, can you give me some idea of Shoscombe Old Place?
Well, not much, only that it's very ancient and situated in the centre of Shoscombe Park, that the famous Shoscombe stables and trading quarters are to be found there.
And the head trainer is John Mason.
I say, how did you deduce that?
I didn't have to. John Mason's my most recent client. This letter asking for an appointment is from him. But to go on, what else is there of interest about the place?
Well, there are the famous Shoscombe Spaniels. You hear of them in every dog show.
Spaniels, eh?
No, they're the special pride of the lady of Shoscombe Old Place.
Sir Robert's wife?
No, Sir Robert has never married. He lives with his widowed sister, Lady Beatrice Folder.
You mean she lives with him?
No, not at all. I said what I meant. The place belonged to her late husband. Lady Beatrice has only a life interest. It reverts at her death to her husband's brother.
Her husband's brother, eh?
Meantime, she draws the rents every year.
And Brother Robert spends them.
Yes, that's about the size of it. They're always quarrelling, and yet I've heard they're devoted to each other. But what's amiss at Shoscombe?
That's just what I'd like to know. And that, if I'm not mistaken, is the man who can tell us, the trainer, John Mason. Yes, here he comes up the stairs. Come in, come in. Ah, Mr. Mason. I am Sherlock Holmes.
Morning, Mr. Holmes. You read my note?
Yes, this is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson, Mr. John Mason. Please be seated. Now, Mr. Mason, what's the difficulty? Your note explained nothing.
The matter's too delicate for me to put on paper. Much too complicated. I had to see you face to face.
We are at your disposal.
Mr. Holmes, I think my employer has gone mad.
My dear Mr. Mason, this is Baker Street, not Harley Street. We do not pretend to be brain specialists.
Well, gentlemen, the man does one queer thing, or even two. But when everything he does is queer, well, I believe Shoscombe Prince and the Derby have turned his brain.
Shoscombe Prince? That's the colt you're running, isn't it?
Yes, sir. The best in England, if I do say so. I'll be plain with you, because I know you're a gentleman of honour, and it won't go beyond this room. Sir Robert has got to win the Derby. He's up to his neck in debts. Well, it's his last chance. Everything he can raise or borrow is on that horse. If Prince fails him, he's done for.
Sounds like rather a desperate gamble, but that doesn't necessarily mean the man's insane. Where does the madness come in?
First of all, his looks, sir. His eyes are wild. I don't believe he sleeps at nights. He's down at the stables at all hours. And so there's his conduct to his sister. Lady Beatrice. She loved the horses as much as he did. Every day she'd drive down to see him, and above all, she loved Prince. He'd prick up his ears when he heard the wheels of a carriage on the gravel, and out he'd trot to get his lump of sugar. But that's all over now. She drives by every morning without so much as a good day to you.
Think there's been a quarrel?
Yes. A bitter, savage one it must have been. Why else would he give away a pet spaniel that she loved as if he were a child?
To whom did he give it?
To old Barnes, what keeps the Green Dragon 3 miles away at Grenville.
Curious, eh, Watson?
Of course, with her weak heart and dropsy, you couldn't expect her to get about much with her brother. But Sir Robert spent 2 hours every evening in her room. Now he never goes near her. She's taken it to heart, she has, sir. Brooding and sulky. Drinking, Mr. Holmes. Drinking like a fish.
Did she ever do that before this estrangement?
Yes, she took a glass regular every evening, but now as often as not, it's her old bottle. There's something rotten about it, Mr. Holmes. Then there's the goings-on down at the old church crypt at night. The haunted crypt, we call it.
Haunted?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. There's an old ruined chapel in the park, so old nobody can fix its date. And under it, there's a crypt. Crypt where all the ancestors of Lady Beatrice's husband lie buried, including the man himself. Well, sir, that crypt has got a bad name among us. It's dark and damp enough by day with the weeds breaking through everywhere, but at night it's worse. Standing there in the moonlight, its broken arches gleaming like ghosts. There's not many in the countryside who have the nerve to go near it at night.
I gather you did, or there'd be no story.
Yes, sir. Me and the butler Stevens. We was taking a walk in the moonlight, smoking a pipe before going to bed, when all of a sudden we notices a light, sort of pale, unearthly like, shining in the old chapel. There we stood, Stevens and me, quaking in the bushes like 2 bunny rabbits.
You see that, Mason? It's a light in the old chapel.
Someone's in there.
Or something. I don't like the look of it. It isn't natural.
What's going on in a chapel this time of night? We'd best go and find out.
Oh, for heaven's sake, no. Maybe it's something evil. Some bad spirit set its light there to lure some poor fella to his death.
Wait a bit. See that shadow moving against the far wall? It's a man's shadow, that is.
Or a devil's. It looks more than life-size to me. Isn't that a tail he's switching around behind him?
Nonsense. It's a piece of rope he's holding in his hand.
Yeah. What's that?
It's Pip, Lady Beatrice's spaniel. He's probably outside the old well house, howling at the moon. He was there all last night, howling to wake the dead.
Don't say that. Maybe that's just what he's doing. Maybe that's what he's done. Waked all the corpses in the crypt and they're having a ghostly meet.
Rubbish, Stevens. You don't really believe in ghosts? Why, when you think about all this tomorrow morning, you'd be ashamed.
But that's tomorrow morning. And tonight, standing here in the moonlight, well, I ain't so sure.
There's one way to find out. Come on, let's have a look at who's in that chapel.
You're not going over there, Mason.
Oh, I am that. You can stay here alone if you like.
Stay here by myself.
Well, then, go back.
What? And pass by that well house and that howling dog all alone?
Part of the dog.
No, I'm coming with you. At least there'll be 2 of us.
Oh, it's down there. Come along, then. Don't crackle the bushes any more than you can help. Confound that beast! Light's disappearing down the stairs into the crypt. See? There's no one in here in the chapel.
Oh, then what's the good of us coming down?
Look, there's a crack in the stone floor. Over there, where the streak of light's coming through, see? We can get over to it without being heard. Maybe we can see what's going on down below.
I wish I was safe in my bed.
Oh my God!
Let's crawl along in our stomachs.
That's so
Easy, does it?
crazy.
All right. Here's the crack.
By George, you're right. It's 2 men. That first one with the thin yellow face. I've never seen him
it's
before, I'd
Brokeback
swear
Mountain.
to that. But the big chap in the black cloak kneeling down. There's something familiar about him. If I could only see his face.
Now he's standing up. By the Lord Harry, it's the master himself.
Sir Robert, what's he up to down here in the dead of night?
What's that he's got under his arm? So careful. Now he's holding it up to the light.
It's a head. The head of a mummy.
What an eerie experience, Mr. Mason.
That it was, Dr. Watson. I'd have given me notice the next day, except that, well, I didn't want to leave Lady Beatrice alone at the mercy of that ruffian. I tried to see her ladyship and tell her what was going on, but she wouldn't see me. Sent out word by our maid, Carrie Evans, she wasn't feeling well enough.
Not feeling well enough.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. But she was well enough to go out driving all the same.
How long has this maid, Carrie Evans, been with Lady Beatrice, Mr. Mason?
Going on 5 years.
And she's devoted?
She's devoted, all right. I won't say to whom. I can't be creating scandal.
You don't have to. Sir Robert's reputation with the ladies is, shall we say, a trifle shady.
Yes, and scandal's been clear for a long time, I'm afraid.
I say, Holmes, perhaps that's the cause of the quarrel between the brother and sister. Being an invalid, she has no way of enforcing her will. So the hated maid is still at Shoscombe. Lady Beatrice sulks and takes to drink. Sir Robert becomes angry and gives away her pet spaniel. That explains everything, doesn't it?
Everything but the nocturnal visit to the crypt, who the yellow-faced stranger was, and why Sir Robert was holding a skull in his arms. Just a few trifling omissions, Watson.
Oh, go to blazes.
Quite.
So there's no
Now,
way
Mr.
to,
Mason, you say Sir Robert gave
break
his sister's
those down.
spaniel away
That's
prior
the
to the
worst.
Green Dragon.
Yes,
Wonder-
Mr. Holmes. When was that? About a week ago, sir.
So,
Day after we saw him in the crypt. The very day Sir Robert left for London.
Oh, he left for London, did he?
Yes, sir.
Has he come back?
We're expecting him back tomorrow, sir.
And has Lady Beatrice been taking her morning drives the same as usual?
Yes, Mr. Holmes. 11 o'clock sharp. She and Carrie go out together.
I'm not quite clear what you expect me to do in this matter, Mr. Mason.
Maybe this will make it more definite, sir.
Yes, I've been wondering what you had in that paper bundle.
It's something Harvey. He's one of my lads. Found in the furnace up at the big house. He was raking out the cinders yesterday.
A bone. Badly charred.
I see.
What is it, Watson? Your knowledge of anatomy is more accurate than mine.
That's part of a femur, a human bone.
Exactly. When does this lad tend to the furnace?
Every night he makes it up and leaves it.
Anyone could visit it during the night.
Yes, sir.
You don't think Sir Robert...
Watson, you forget Sir Robert's supposed to be in London. He's at deep waters, Mr. Mason, deep and rather dirty, but I'm beginning to see to the bottom. How is the fishing in the neighborhood of Shoscombe Old Place?
The fishing, Mr. Holmes?
Yes, the doctor and I are famous fishermen, and we haven't had an opportunity to show our prowess this season, eh, Watson?
Well, if it's fishing you're after, there's nothing can come up to the trout in the middle stream.
Good. You may address us in future at the Green Dragon. We shall reach there tonight.
And now that you have Mr. Holmes started on your fishing expedition, Dr. Watson, may I step in to say a few words?
Fair enough, Mr. Stark.
Clipper craft clothes are not merely good-looking at the time you buy them. They stay good-looking. Part of the reason for this is hidden from your eyes. That's the painstaking tailoring, the hundreds of stitches inside. Yes, fine tailoring and rich, long-wearing fabrics are the reasons Clipper craft clothes are remarkable values at their more than modest prices. Naturally, prices low as these wouldn't be possible without the unique Clipper craft plan. This plan concentrates the buying power of 1,036 great stores across the country, creating year-round economies in manufacturing and distribution costs. That's why you pay only $40 and $45 for a Clipper craft suit, only $40 for a top coat or overcoat, and only $26.50 for sport jackets. For your own sake, compare Clipper craft with clothes selling for many dollars more. And now to return to our story, Dr. Watson.
Well, suppose we pick up after Holmes and I had settled ourselves at the Green Dragon. Mid-morning found us tramping down the road leading towards Shoscombe Old Place, carrying rods and reels and all the rest of the trout fisherman's paraphernalia. Holmes also had a shaggy black spaniel in tow.
Ah, splendid weather for fishing, eh, Watson? The trout should be fairly jumping at the hook.
Yes, I shall have a good opportunity to try that new fly of mine. If that confounded dog doesn't scare the fish away, what in thunder made you bring that spaniel along?
You mean Pip?
Yes.
Down, boy, down. I saw him tied up in the front hall of the inn. Mine host says that they have to keep him on a leash or he runs straight back to his old home. Easy, Pip. Don't pull so, boy. Poor dog seemed to want to go walking, so I said I'd take him.
Yes, but a dog on a fishing jog, oh, really, Holmes.
Now, if we were going hunting, it'd be different, eh?
Yes, but it's not the hunting season.
You never know. We may get in a little hunting before we get to our fishing. Ah, that is the entrance gate to Shoscombe Old Place, I presume.
Handsome old ironwork. And tightly locked, too. Dear Sir Robert is very jealous of his privacy, eh?
You would be, too, if you had a horse you expected to win the Derby. I understand he's very vicious with touts or any stranger he catches snooping around his property.
I see, look. Here comes a big yellow open barouche.
Yes, Lady Beatrice returning from her morning's drive, I fancy. I thought we should have some hunting this morning.
What do you mean?
Pip and I are going to hide behind this hedge. When the footman gets down to unlock the gates, I want you to engage him in conversation.
Yes, but I don't understand, Holmes. Holmes, where are you? Where did you go?
Here, behind the hedge, trying to keep this confounded dog quiet.
Here they come. I say the old girl must be 1,000,000 years old, all bundled up in shawls and veils and things. That must be Carrie beside her, the one with the suspiciously blonde hair. They've stopped. The footman's getting down off the box. The gates are swinging open.
After him, Watson, after him.
Hello there. I say, my good man, can you tell me how to get to the mill street?
Now then, Pip, out you go, old boy. It's your mistress. After her, boy, after her. There he goes. Leaps into the carriage onto his mistress's lap. By Jove, he's snarling. He's trying to bite the woman.
You get down out of here! Drive on! Drive on!
Come on, Pip. Did he try to kick you? Well, never mind, old boy.
Well, Watson, that's done it. He expected to see his mistress, and he found a stranger. Dogs don't make mistakes.
But it was the voice of a man.
Exactly. Our little hunting party was quite a success. We flushed our bird. Now, come along, Watson. The fish are waiting for us.
Look here, Holmes, you're not going to give up this clue.
Not exactly. Our hunting must be postponed until after dark. Then, I promise you, it will be for big game.
Here, Holmes, that storm is going to break any minute now. Hadn't we better get back to the inn?
Oh, rubbish. We can reach the chapel before we get too wet.
Yes, but how do we get home again?
By running, I suspect. We may get wet. I told the landlord to have some of the trout we caught this afternoon and a Stilton cheese, salad, and a hot toddy waiting for us.
Oh, then let's get back now.
I said we wouldn't be back before 10:30. But if we weren't back by then, we'll rout out the local police.
You think it's as bad as all that?
I don't know. It all depends on what we find in that crypt.
There, that must be the chapel up ahead. I saw it in the last flash of lightning.
Here comes the rain. Run, Watson, run!
I say, don't go so fast. Good Lord, it's as black as the inside of my pocket. I've lost the chapel. No, there it is.
Over here, Watson, over here. There's an entrance.
Right. Oh, great thunder. I'm soaked to the skin. It's coming down in torrents.
Here, this must be the stairs leading down to the crypt.
I say, Holmes, you have eyes like a cat. I can't see a blasted thing.
Take my hand. Easy now, easy. Don't fall and break your neck. There. Now you can light the lantern.
As if I can find a match that's dry enough to light. They all feel like spaghetti. There. Phew. What a sepulchral place. Look at all those vaults. I had no idea Lady Beatrice's husband had so many ancestors.
Yes, some of those graves date back before the Norman invasion. Look at the Saxon names. Adalbert, Harold. Here are the Normans. Long line of Hugos and Odos and Percys. But it's this leaden coffin we're interested in, I imagine. Notice how the dust around it's been disturbed. Hand me that chimney, Watson.
You're not going to open it. Holmes, let's get out of here. All these coffins, hundreds of dead ancestors. I feel like a ghoul myself prying into their long-forgotten secrets.
Rubbish. I'll have this lid off in no time. 1, 2. Stand back! Keep away from that coffin. himself. This is a surprise.
Sir
Allow me to present
Norton.
myself. I am Sherlock Holmes. You don't have to tell me. I heard how you tried to frighten my sister this morning. Now clear out. Your sister? Yes, my sister. Now, what is your motive? What are you doing here? Answer me, do you hear? I, too, have some questions to ask, Sir Robert. What have you done with your sister? My sister? My sister is home in bed, of course. If your sister's home in bed, would you mind telling me whose body is inside this coffin? Throw back the lid, Watson. Yes, Sir Robert. Is that the body of your sister, or isn't it? It is.
It is.
But you are not the official police.
You are not the official.
Anyway, my business is that of every good citizen.
Citizen's arrest. All right, so we can get this Allen wrench in at a side angle here.
Now let me explain. Your explanations must
So
be to
we
the
do
police
not
operator.
have to
But
go
that will
up
ruin me, don't you understand? I've
the
always
long
been
way.
dependent on my sister, Lady Beatrice,
Okay.
for everything. I'm deeply in debt.
So this handguard
If you know that my sister dead, my
grip
creditors would come down on me like vultures.
tusk is going to be
Everything would
right
be
here.
seized. My stables, my horses. Shostka Prince would never run the
It's going to
derby.
replace this tiny one that we just went over top.
Holmes,
There's
my
two.
sister
One,
did die
two.
just 1 week ago. She died of dropsy, which had long afflicted her. That will be for the coroner to decide. I was faced with absolute ruin. If I could only keep her death hushed up until day after tomorrow when the derby is run, I'll make a fortune. If your horse wins, oh, he will, he must. My good name depends on it.
My good name
On the
depends on
first night after my sister's death, Norwich, who is Carrie Evans' husband and an actor, helped to carry her body out to the old well house. We were followed, however, by her pet spaniel, who howled all night long. I finally had to get rid of him. And it was Norland, the actor, who impersonated your sister this last week. Yes, Mr. Holmes. This last week I've lived a life of the damned. My conscience has given me no peace. Later, we buried my sister's body here in what is still consecrated ground. One of the tombs of her husband's ancestors. After having endeavored to destroy the ancestors' bones in the furnace. What? I don't know how you know that, but it's true. Now it's for nothing. All for nothing. I'm ruined, Mr. Holmes. Ruined. Not necessarily. Well, what do you mean? After all, the derby is only the day after tomorrow. Of course, we must lay the case before the local authorities, but I still have a... Would you use it? It's...
And now, Dr. Watson, did Sherlock Holmes use his influence in Sir Robert's behalf?
Yes, indeed, Mr. Stark. We went back to the inn and Holmes routed the local constable and coroner out of bed. They discussed matters over the trout and coffee and cheese. Luckily, our catch had been a fairly big one. Moreover, the creditors were all Londoners, and Sir Robert was a local man. Pride of county, you know. Besides, the constable and the coroner had both placed bets on Shostak Prince, and they wanted to see him win.
And did he?
He did, and netted his owner £80,000. Sir Robert paid his debts and bought a small place in the neighbourhood of Shostak, where he threatens to end his days in an honoured old age. He and Holmes have become great friends. Holmes often visits him when he wants a bit of trout fishing.
Well, all this talk of trout and salad and cheese...
I think that's going to be way sharper than I want.
I hoped it would. I have a special treat in store for you tonight. Just ring the bell, will you? I received two of the most beautiful trout from Sir Robert just this morning. I imagine my housekeeper has them in the pan by now.
Frying in butter with lemon sprinkled on the top.
And a fresh green salad and a Stilton cheese.
But look here, isn't it a bit out of season for trout?
Nothing is out of season these days, Mr. Stark. Sir Robert has what is called a deep freeze, you know.
Yes, I know, but what have you in mind to tell us next week, Dr. Watson?
Well, next week, Mr. Stark, I think I'll tell you of the vicious robberies and bludgeonings that occurred in Boston Yard. The criminal, you know, was a cat named Peggy. Holmes always called it the adventure of the wooden claw.
Now, Dr. Watson, how about the story of the white cockle?
Well, Mr. Bell, that adventure took place after Sherlock Holmes had given up his regular...
Okay, I think that'll do it for today. We're not going to go with this one. I think this was a great first shot. Great first shot. We're going to try to take a little bit more of inspiration out of this here. really well done. It's just gorgeous. Really wonderful. Getting there. I would like to incise the skate, the spikes going up to it, so it's not small, huge tusk coming out of the jugular. But it is what it is. I mean, what else? What were you gonna just attach a vertical grip there? No. Take 4 hours now, and we're gonna make it. That's not bad. It's not a bad first shot at all. Not a bad first shot. I could sand it. I could just sand it down. Just go with it. That's so cool, man. I like that a lot. I think it's going to be a lot narrower than we're thinking. If I make it any wider, it's going to look so weird. That's literally about as wide as we can. It already looks so weird. What a fun time. What a fun time to be alive. 2025. All right. We thought it was going to be frustrating. We thought we weren't going to get it. Still struggling to learn Blender. It's not intuitive. It's not exactly how I would have laid it out, but we are here where we are. It is noon. Thank you so much for sticking around with me this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great time. Peace.